I was going to do, and I just never stopped. I still feel like I'm like 12 years old all the time.
You do have that energy.
I do.
She was seeing it. But it has been a bit of a journey for you. And when I read your books, I thought, I hope I have taken my lessons that I'm supposed to get from my life, because you have really taken your lessons. You are quite the student of your own life.
Well, first of all, it goes all the way back to Flint, Michigan. It was wild because I'm 54 years old, and I was born in 1968. And in the beginning, Flint, Michigan was absolutely booming. You gotta understand, General Motors was the #1 corporation in the world, and everybody in Flint, Michigan worked in some respect for General Motors. My father worked at Buick. I had a grandma who worked at AC Spark Plug, and there was so much going on, and people were living great lives. I just said it was like Palo Alto, And then all of a sudden it ended, and there was the gas crisis and all these problems, and all of a sudden the auto industry started to change, and then we got hit with the crack epidemic at the same time. Now, with all that going on outside of my home, inside was even worse. My father was extremely abusive. I mean, I have to say, my earliest memory was at 5 years old, and my father hitting my mother in the face as hard as he could and knocking her out. And I just...
You were powerless.
I was totally powerless. And you have to understand, at 5, and I'm looking at this man, and he looks like the Hulk, and he's the biggest, strongest thing I've ever seen. He's like the representative of what manhood is. And he knocks her out, and he's like, look what you made me do. And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, I have no power. And one thing, when you see me and, working out and getting big and strong, and honestly, a lot of that came because one day I thought I might have to kill him. And so I always was preparing for this day, for this confrontation, for this thing, because I'm like, wait, he says he loves her, and he just put her on the floor. What's he gonna do to me? And so it was a very anxious time. And I mean, I grew up with nothing but fear, anxiety, and powerlessness. And most of my life was really trying to deal with that situation.
And a certain version of manhood that you really turned away from, but initially you turned to strength and you turned to sports.
Well, you gotta understand, in that day, in that time, in that era, most men were like, hey, you didn't really love your family, you owned your family. That's a whole different concept. And when you're talking about at work and the things that you were supposed to do, you were supposed to dominate your employees. You were to dominate your culture. Everything was, it was kill or be killed. And it was extremely competitive about everything. And so there was always this thing where guys would try to, really challenge you at every step. I remember going outside and there were gang members and drug dealers and the whole thing. And what was wild is, I was always an artist. Painting, drawing. My whole vision of life was like being a filmmaker, and I always wanted to do this, but I actually had to go to school and dumb down because I was scared to let people know what I was a big nerd, to be honest. I'm still a big nerd. But it was one of the things where I would get in the crowd and get with the gangs, like, hey, I don't care about that, man. And I would talk that way and then get to school and be like, I made it another day.
Yeah. But football gave you a little bit of a path.
Well, football was one of the things that you have to understand, as an artist, I didn't see, and especially as a black man, I didn't see any other artists Like, I didn't see how that was going to provide anything for me. I thought it was people thought it was nice, and they thought, oh, that's really cool. But when you thought of art, we didn't go to museums, we didn't go to art galleries. It wasn't a thing, it was really expensive. So I was like, okay, but football, there was two ways out of Flint, Michigan. It was either music or sports. We had a band that was called Ready for the World. They were friends of mine, and they had a big hit on the charts. And they were like, okay, that's one way. But then we also had a couple really, really great football players and basketball players that went and made it. So I said, okay, then sports is going to be my thing, because I've already been working out. So I'm going to make sports my way out.
And I know you had in the beginning there, though, you did have an art experience at Interlochen in up North Michigan. I've been up there, it's stunning.
Yes. Well, see, this is now let me tell you, again, when you're talking about what you're going to do with your life, and this is how much I did not believe art was going to make it for me. I was the best artist in my school, and I was like, whatever. My teacher, Mr. Eichelberg, I'll never forget this. I love him for this to this day. He took all of my art, photographed it, cataloged it, sent it out with scholarships everywhere without me knowing. This was because I did not believe. And when I got the scholarships, I'm walking into class, he says, Terry, you just earned a scholarship to Interlochen Arts Academy and Western Michigan University. And I was like, what? Listen, I think that, man, because he believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And I always often say that every person, I'm sure every person in here always just needs one other person to believe in them for them to get their dreams. And again, if it wasn't for Mr. Eichelberg, I wouldn't be here.
That's awesome. About someone who is acting away for someone else, and you've done it for so many people, but it really is incredible how much it did for you at that point in time. So you went to the camp, and how was your art received?
Well, this is the thing. Again, here I am. I'm one of the few African Americans in this really, very, very white world, and I was just kind of like, all right, are they going to accept me? I don't know, because you always come, especially when you are different than everybody else in the room. You're just going, all right, do I fit in? Am I going to make it? What's happening here? And I'll never forget, they had a curator from the University of Cincinnati, I believe, and he was up there, and now they were really big on competition too. And he said, okay, every artist here, you're going to do 2 drawings, and we're going to put them on the wall, and you're not going to sign them, and we're going to figure out who the best guy is. And so I said, oh, God. I did my thing, and out of all these artists, we had a wall full of art with no one's name on it. And the teacher said, okay, sir, which one is the best? And the curator went right over the line. And he said, this is the best art in the room.
Wow.
And he said, okay,
Wow.
what's the second best? He went all the way across the room to my other drawing.
Wow.
Me, I get choked up even now. Because I went, wait a minute. I am the best artist here. Now here, because of what I've heard and what you think and all these misconceived notions, the thing is I had already counted myself out. But once I got that, and once I had that affirmation, it was like a fire was lit. It was like, and it burned and it continued to burn. And I said, wait a minute, I can do this. I can do this. It's incredible.
We all, in the business, we're all out trying to earn the business, but it's different for different people. People have to overcome certain perceptions and discrimination, and it's real. And I'm so glad that you got to experience the faith in your own work, the knowledge of it in that competition, and that kept that art burning for you, because I love watching your art on Instagram. It's Instagram. So incredibly talented. Just too many talents, really. But despite the art, and you've come back to it, but you went on the football path. You did, and you were a linebacker in the NFL, which is incredible in itself. But that had to be a really tough environment.
Oh, first of all, again, going back to, I still, once I got to school on the art scholarship, the art scholarship did not pay for the rest of my school. It was very, very little. And I was at Western Michigan University, and the only way I could get the rest of my college paid for was to walk on to the football team. So I was a, crash test dummy for all you guys my first year in. But again, slowly but surely, I got better and better and better. And I earned a scholarship eventually. But then I got so good that I actually made my way into the NFL. But this is the other thing you gotta understand. The NFL at the time, now I have to say, I really believe it's changing, but at the time it was probably the most toxic environment you could ever think. Like, what was wild, what was normal to us was absolutely insane to everybody else. You would go into the locker room and there would be fights. You're dealing with people who were still dealing drugs in the NFL, or people who were killers, or people who had done really heinous crimes. And here I am playing right next to these guys. I'll never forget, there was a guy who had just been accused of raping his babysitter.
Whoa.
They took his handcuffs off in camp. And they were like, all right, go ahead and get something to eat. I was like, hey, man, y'all just let this dude out. He was like, come on, let's play. I'm going, hey. And I realized, whoa, and everything was about checking your manhood. And again, it was a little bit like the gang stuff when I was growing up. And it was all about this challenge. But let me tell you, I took the challenge. I said, guess what? Then I'll be more toxic than all of them.
Uh-oh.
And what I had done, and I determined that this was the only way. It was this competition thing, I was going to win. And it's not either, we can't both win. So it's either me or you, and it's going to be you today. And I developed that attitude, and let me tell you, it literally ruined my life.
Wow.
Ruined it. I became this person who was very duplicitous. Like, I'd smile and like, hey, how you doing? I'm gonna kill you. I was always super, like, it was about being tough, meaning I can beat you in anything. I will beat you down. I will destroy you. But I realized, what was wild, when my life totally fell apart, is when I realized I had it all wrong, because that did not stand for, I mixed up what manhood really was. And when you look at a lot of this stuff, when you look at old ball players or old military guys who end up going and they walk off and they're on a horse, and it's like the Marlboro Man is my phrase. They're always alone. And families can't be with them. No one can be with them. They're hurt. They're beaten. And I was like, that is where I was headed until I decided to change.
You're super conscious of all of your changes, and that's what I love in reading your book and hearing you speak about it. You are such an incredibly thoughtful person. But still, I don't know how you get the idea from going from the NFL to acting and becoming an incredibly successful actor. It's a big idea.
You see, this is the thing. Thank goodness, I think it's a problem for grown people to be childish, but being childlike is always great. And so I was always open to new opportunities. You have to understand, and this is how driven I was. I made it all the way to the NFL, and I didn't even like football. I don't really like this. Once you get in here, you're like, this is like that. And so after 7 years, my wife was like, you always wanted to talk about going to Hollywood and doing your thing and using your art that way. She said, let's go. It was my wife who told me. She said, and this is the thing, always having good support. Let me tell you, my wife She has been with me for 34 years. We were married.
Wow.
I like to say we grew up together. And she knew me. I got married the day before my 21st birthday. So I was 20 years old. And she knew me from the old Terry. And she's been through all these changes. And when we moved to California, I actually had my portfolio in at DreamWorks, at Disney, at all that. I was a hand drawing. I was trying to do animation and the whole thing. But then Toy Story came out, and all the hand drawn guys were out on the street. They were like, "Can you use your computer? You're out of here." And so I was like, "What am I going to do now?" And a friend of mine invited me to an audition. I was sweeping floors at a factory.
Literally.
I was literally sweeping floors. And then I was bouncing at a club. And he said, "Hey man, there's an audition for a TV show called Battlefield." And I was like, "I'll try it." And I went. And what this show was it was American Gladiators on steroids. Okay. Anybody, you can look it up, Google it. It's crazy. The law line for the show is called Real Warriors, Real Pay. And what I did was fight 3 contestants in a row in a cage. And it was really crazy. But I was like, "Hey, I'm making money." And I got the job. I got the show. And that was the beginning of this acting thing. And I was like, I said, "Oh my God, now I'm an actor. I better learn how to act." And it was always in the willingness to try new things, the willingness to take a chance. And another thing too, I want to mention this. I did not have an old, you go to acting school and they have those coaches that are like, "No, you should not do that to Terry Crews." I was like, "Hey man, I'm an old football player, I don't care," And so when I would go out and just do whatever in Hollywood, there were no rules for me. Like when people see Old Spice, they were like, "He's shirtless and he's screaming power, but it works," And that whole thing, everything became like a wonderful new thing to me. And every part, every role, it just became it was one of those things where I learned how to put myself in everything I did.
Well, I think it's amazing. We have so many brand new agents and people taking themselves to the next level, always in this business. So tell them how you do that process of just being ready for the new thing.
Wow. First of all, and this is the thing too, go in stupid. Go in stupid. Listen, the advantage I had, thank God, is that I didn't try to act like I knew everything. I walked in like, I don't know. I have no idea. My first movie, I did a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger called The 6K. It was the first movie I ever got, and it was giant. And so I'm scared, I didn't know what to do. And Michael Rupert, who's an amazing actor, he's like, "Hey, Daddy, listen, when you go over here, I'm going to take your place, and when you walk that way, I'm going to take your place, and you walk, you take my place." And I was like, "Okay." That's my lesson. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm watching, and I'm learning. And then I started to watch the best do it. And you start to see and pick up on all the little things. I kept my mouth shut and my eyes open. And I was always picking up new things. And I would say, "Okay, I got that. I'm taking this with me. I got that. I'm taking this with me." So by going in with an attitude of not knowing, it helped me. Everyone was willing to reveal the secrets. They were willing to tell me. Because if I'd acted like I already know already, everyone would have just let me go.
I think people are inherently good and inherently friendly, and if you ask, you get and receive. Yes, I totally agree.
And I asked for help. I was totally like, "So what does this mean? How does that go? What does that camera do?" And I was that kind of guy, but nobody minded. I would sit around after work and talk to the crew about what should I do better. And this is another thing. I was willing to take my lumps. Because being in the NFL got me ready for Hollywood. I mean, being rejected. I was cut 16. I was cut. I was in the NFL 7 years, and I got cut like every year. So I was willing to look
you're an author also. And one of the things I was reading is you talked about how children come into the world, so, and you yourself come into the world so good, so, so ready, so positive, and you have had so much hardship and such an interesting life and learned so many lessons which you've taken, and really you are an incredible student, as I said, but you're writing a children's book now.
Yes.
So you are a few books in, and what took you in this direction?
Wow. First of all, because I wanted to write a book that you have to understand, in that toxic world of masculinity, no one would tell me anything. I was a kid, and I would ask. And I would ask other men, like, what is it like to be a man? I would ask my father, and he would go, you're going to find out. I would ask other men in the neighborhood, and they were like, oh man, one day you'll get it. And I was like, man, why won't anybody tell me what it is to be a man? So it was so bad that I made a vow with my best friend. I said, listen, man, if you find out something I don't know, you please promise me you tell me. If I find out something that you don't know, I promise to tell you. And so this is part of that vow. Really writing and telling kids what it's about and how it was and what the experience is like. This is why I still write. Because I'm literally writing that letter to my 12-year-old self. And it's literally just like, man, this is my experience. This is how it was. And there was the book is called Terry's Crew, and it's literally for kids 8 to 12 years old. And the thing I had to really, really get across to people is that my quest to be a multi-hyphenate was always real. Like, people told me that you can either be an athlete or an artist, but you can't do both. And I was like, why? I would go to practice, and they were like, man, you need to put the pencils down. And then I would go to art class, and they were like, oh no, you're one of these big athletes, you're one of these big jocks. And I said, I will never ever give up these worlds. I want both. And there's no reason I can't have both. There's no reason I can't have 3 things, 4 things, 5 things. I'm serious. And one thing I realized is I had to start challenging these beliefs. You have to start challenging what people say. People were telling me all the time, hey man, it's dog-eat-dog world, man. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And I was like, man, dogs don't eat other dogs. I've never seen it. They team up and they find things to eat, but I've never seen it. That is a lie.
Good job.
But think about how many times you heard that belief and said that's the way things go. It's not true. And so I started to challenge this world. Once Mr. Eidelberg got me my scholarship, I started to challenge. People were like, well, the art world is just for white people. I was like, why? Wait, why can't I do that? And once I started seeing, the door started to open. And all these things that were challenges before became easy with practice, became easier as my skill level increased, everything got better.
And it seems like you took a shift from being yourself and protecting yourself to really turning outward, to sharing your story, to writing these books.
Well, one thing, and I'm going to be really, really honest here. It all started when my wife left me. My wife left me. We had just celebrated our 20th anniversary. And she was like, she literally came to me and she said, you know what? What is it I don't know about you, Terry Crews? And you gotta understand, I have been in this world where, okay, I'm a man, I gotta have this thing all together, I gotta make things look good, I gotta stick to it, and in fact, I gotta keep my secrets. And I was addicted to pornography. And it had led to infidelity earlier in our marriage. And I decided I was never gonna tell my mom. But she knew, and she knew something was wrong. And she said, I'm out of here. She said, Terry, I'm done. because I got tired of keeping the secret. And I told her, and she said, you cheated me. She said, I'm out. And you know what I said? Which is, this is the ultimate male arrogance. I was like, bye. You know what? I'm Terry Crews. You understand? I was very successful.
You would have said that. I'm Terry Crews.
Yeah, I said that.
I said that.
Which is the reason of the bad move, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, Terry Crews. I was like, okay, and there's a track record.
There you go.
Let me tell you something. And I said that, and I was like, wait, like when you hear yourself talking this way, and I said, man, you are the opposite of everything you say you want to be. And this is the biggest thing for me. And what I discovered was that success was the easiest place to hide. I could hide in this success. No one was ever going to call me on my stuff. And when my wife did, it was like, boom. She came up against this force. And I said, and I had to realize, wait a minute. Because at first I had blamed everybody. I was like, look, it's my father. My father did it. I grew up in the Flint. I grew up poor. I grew up black. I grew up this. I grew up that. But in the end, I made every one of those decisions. I could not blame the gang members. I couldn't blame anybody. I couldn't blame my parents. It's me. I did that. And when you crack that egg, it was like a cracked edge, and I was trying to put it back together. And I knew I needed help. And that was the first time in my life I went to therapy. Now you have to understand too, in my community, in the black community where I grew up, therapy was looked at as quackery. You know, it was like, you can't cure crazy, you can't do it. These things you heard, you know. Another one of those lies. Those lies that get spread around and so much that people believe it. And I went, and I couldn't believe. It was like the therapist was reading my mail. It was like they were telling me all these insights. I was like, that's me. I said, wait a minute, that's me. Be the man, so to speak. And I had to rebuild everything from the ground up. With my kids, with everything. You have to understand, I've already been famous, been doing all these things. And I was like, well, what use is it if I don't have a family? Because Hollywood didn't care if I lost my family. It just didn't. It was like, hey, we'll put you in 3 more movies, good. You never have to go home. I was like, no, but this is not the point. What's the point of having anything if it's not when you can bless the people you love? And it's the beginning of the new Terry Crews. And I'm so, let me tell you, I am so thankful today. Like, every time you see me, like, smiling and on AGT and doing my stuff, I'm just like, man, all of that is gone. Every bit of it. It's like, it's literally like having a beautiful home and losing it all, and then getting a better, like, a weird, like, oh my God, like, I'm like, look at this toilet, I love this toilet. I literally, like, and let me tell you, my wife and I, we rebuilt our marriage. We rebuilt everything. And I want to say this because this was I called a good friend, and he gave me the best advice I've ever received in my entire life. He said, Terry, and this is right after my wife left. I was like, man, everybody's gone. I said, I lost my family, man. They're gone. He said, look, man, I cannot promise you you're going to get your wife and family back. But you need to get better for you. Now, you got to understand, that was strange to me. It was a strange concept. Because in that toxic world, you do everything for what I call Scooby snacks. You know what I mean? Everything is done so, I do this so I can get sex. I do this so I can get money. I do this so I can get praise. I do this. But getting better for you is just about working on yourself. Just to be the best you could be for your own sake. It blew my mind. Blew my mind. But my world got better. Once I started working on me, the world just started getting better and better and better.
You are an incredible